Aloha, welcome back to Aina Bear Farm. It's been a little bit since we've done a new video. Part of that is because we've been preparing for our hot, dry season in the summer. And this video, we're going to talk about some of those preparations, and we're also going to give you a few updates on just some random things that we've talked about in previous videos and just kind of show you what's happening out here in the food forest. And this part of the Big Island that we live on, we typically have a wet winter, although winter can mean a lot of different things depending on the year and all the shifts in climate that are happening right now. So this past winter, January and February were very bone dry, not too hot, but dry. March, April, May was just constant rain. We probably got more rainfall in those 3 months than most of the rest of, most of probably anywhere that the viewers live would get in an entire year. So, I remember at one point we got 25 or more inches in less than a week. And so we kind of have to bank that water in different ways and get everything ready for the dry season that's coming, because we know it's coming. And sure enough, the last 3 weeks, it's like someone turned the faucet off, and we've had no more than just a few little drizzles here and there, but no significant rainfall whatsoever, and there's really none in sight for the next 10-day forecast or so. And so, that means we have to do a lot of preparation to get ready to make sure our trees are healthy, to make sure that our summer maintenance isn't excruciating and unenjoyable, that we can kind of come out here and really just focus on some of the more fun things and expand the food forest. So yeah, we're going to talk about some of those things, and then after we talk about that, we'll just show you some other cool updates. One of the things that we'll talk about is heavy mulching, and that's part of the reason we're starting right here. And you can see this area was all grass, so this area looks like that yesterday. We came out here with our trimmer with the blade attachment, cut it all down, and then we stacked it up. And I'll show you one of the several stacks that we made. And so it was about this tall, I don't know, close to 3 feet. And then we've got that stacked in a little wire cage here. This is all actually going to go out to the garden as a mulch for the garden, but we also use this grass around our fruit trees and just pretty much anywhere we need to keep the ground covered. And so this is one way. There's so much water in this, by itself. So when we put this out there, in a way it's like adding some water, but the main benefit is that shade to the ground and making sure that the sun can't dry out the ground really fast and just parch everything. So that's one of the ground covers, or one of the ways that we cover the ground, one of the mulches that we use. Let's go over here and we can check out around one of our fruit trees just kind of all the different things that we're stacking up, and just sort of see what it looks like under that. Hold in the moisture, add organic material, all those things. The more you do them over time, the better. So here we're at the base of a Rollinia tree. So one of the things you can see is just pigeon pea out here. We can see Tithonia. You can see some more pigeon pea, some red tea leaf there. So lots of plants in the area to just kind of add extra shade. Roots in the ground is just more carbon, storing water. And then when we get down into this mulch around the tree, start kind of uncovering. So this is, a lot of that grass. There's just plant material that's breaking down in here. As we get underneath it, you can see larger, woodier plant material. And this is old Tithonia stalks. That's going to hold water too. The more it breaks down, the more water it'll hold. We've got some biochar in here. That's going to just help things as well. And then when we get down, there's this, I think it's some old broken down rabbit manure. And I can feel quite a bit of moisture in that soil, and we can already see roots there, the fine hairs, feeding on that, taking in the moisture. So, this is what you want, like this really nice organic filled material that's just going to hold on to that water, keep the soil nice and cool, regulate the temperatures, and keep that tree happy for the summer. All right, so another thing we do during the wetter times is that we plant plants that are going to be living ground covers, living mulch, green, that sort of thing. We have to make sure we plant them during the wet time because that's when the plants are actually going to start growing. If we waited to the dry season to plant them, they really wouldn't get going very far and be much harder to maintain. We'd have to be watering them all the time. And so I want to show you, this is a mango tree. It's a Raposa variety of mango. And then down here at the base, we've planted jack bean. And so this will just continue to spread. It's a nitrogen fixer, of course, it's a legume. So, improve the soil, cover the soil, and just kind of help us out so that we don't have to constantly be relying on throwing in the mulch, the organic material, as the only way to keep that soil covered. We grow a lot of bananas here, as do a lot of food forests in the tropical and warmer regions of the world. Not just for the fruit, which you can see there's a rack of bananas up there, but also because they create a lot of organic material and shade. And so what we do is we come in, and once they start making lots of little trees, which in a lot of parts of the world they call pups, in Hawaii we call them keiki for kids, and we just cut those back, and we can actually use those as organic material like we've done around this fruit tree. And the great thing about bananas is they hold a lot of water. So these stalks, they break down pretty quick, and they just kind of release all that water into the soil, and then the stalks themselves will hold on to water with any kind of rainfall we get and just add more moisture that way. And here you can see we're using a combination of banana, jack bean, and then the large carbon mulch of the tree stump borders around our fruit trees. And if you've seen previous videos, we've been adding a lot of those as well. That's another really good one. Pull up any of those, you'll find very moist conditions under there, mycorrhizal fungi starting to break down the denser woody tissues. And then right next to that, you can see a ground cover of perennial peanut. So that's just another strategy during the wet season. Get your ground covers in, let them start spreading. So, guinea grass, because we're converting a pasture to a food forest, this was the norm before we started adding other things in. And so we're slowly kind of changing that as the default to more things like this. Perennial peanut, this is an ohia, it's a native tree that's going to get fairly large. Fruit trees with tree circles, with mulches, jack beans. So we're looking for diversity. We're looking for things that pump nitrogen into the ground. We're looking for things that don't need to be routinely mowed, like the grass there. That we're looking for things that have diverse root layers in the ground. It can create more shade because that grass will get a little taller, but it's got a max height, so it's not really going to create the kind of shade that we can come and plant underneath. But again, really using that wet period to be thinking ahead. So now hopefully these roots are established, and this will continue to spread throughout the summer, and we just keep cutting back around the edges, getting rid of that guinea grass, and then it spreads further, and then we'll cut it back even more, and it'll spread further, so on and so forth. So one of the last things I wanted to mention was specifically about the Tithonia and how we use it here. If you've seen previous videos of ours, you probably know we use this as a windbreak because it grows really fast. We're a very windy site here, so we really got to protect particularly our young fruit trees from just getting battered by the wind, getting defoliated, growing in undesirable ways. And most of this Tithonia we cut back 1 to 2 months ago during the wet season, and then we bank that mulch. And so a little hard to see in the shade, but we've got a langsat or lanzones tree back here, and so that's being protected by the Tithonia from the wind, and very much in the shade right now in the morning. You'll get the midday, late day sun. But what we did for most of our fruit trees is cut this back pretty much to the ground. We took all the foliage of the Tithonia, banked it around the fruit trees as mulch, and so that breaks down. It's a wonderful nitrogen fertilizer to the trees. It also kind of tames the roots so that they're not as competitive with the fruit tree roots, and then they release, all the excess water and sugars and things that they hold on to in the soil, and it's more carbon pathways in the soil, so on and so forth. But some of the Tithonia we haven't cut, partially because we didn't get to it in time. Some of it's because there were spots where we were experiencing some pretty severe wind and we wanted to wait. This was one of those spots that's kind of at the top of our property where we get the most wind. But the good thing is you can cut this stuff down anytime. And so this is just banked organic material, banked moisture, banked mulch, all that stuff free because we're growing it on site. And now we just have to cut it and then add it to our langsat tree there. And that's going to help provide another layer of protection of the soil, stuff for the soil to feed on, some extra water, nutrients, all that. So we'll be probably taking this one down within the next week or so. Open up a little more sunlight to that. But in some cases, we leave this for the shade as well. We have particularly young trees or more sun-sensitive trees like mangosteen, coffees, cacaos, things like that. So you may have Tithonia standing just to protect them from the sun, especially the summer, really strong sun. Okay, now on to just a few other random updates for this video. This is our black sapote tree, and hopefully we'll be able to see we've got some flowers coming in here. So it's flowered once before minimally. This time this tree is covered in flowers, so we're hoping we'll get some of our first black sapote fruit this year. That'd be pretty cool. One of the things I love about this time of year is remembering all the places that I put turmeric. So here we can see quite a bit of turmeric popping up, and I love just walking by and realizing, oh yeah, I put turmeric there. That's exciting. I really like to put it underneath this perennial peanut in a lot of spots and then sort of forget about it in the winter, and then it pops up late spring, early summer. Here we've got some of our first mango fruits. This is a Mapulehu variety mango that has been in the ground 2.5 years, something in that area. The tree itself is probably 4 years old. Nice size. We've pruned this one to keep it manageable shape. We've still got a lot of flowers back here too, so we may end up, and then you can see like some tinier fruits over there if they hold on. We'll end up with a few of our first mangoes, so that's pretty exciting. Here's an update on one of the coral trees that we planted from seed a while back. We did a video on that and had a viewer asking how these were doing, so I thought I would include that here. This is about 2 feet high, and a few things I noticed. One is that they didn't grow much during the winter, but seem to be really waking up now. You can see new growth popping there. And so I anticipate seeing these grow quite a bit in the summer. I mean, I know once these get going, they really take off. So we're happy about that. This will be, again, like a shade tree, support tree, nitrogen fixing. They have thorns when they're young, but they lose them when they're older. Beautiful flowers. Really, really stark, beautiful flowers. So we put in about, I don't know, 10 to 15 of these out here that we grew in seed trays and transplanted them. And I would say more than half of them look like this. We've had a couple that didn't do so well. I don't think I've lost any. They're all still there. Some of them kind of seem to die back quite a bit and then are now shooting up new growth closer to the base. But overall, pretty happy with this, and we'll kind of follow up with this at the end of the summer and see, once they start really taking off, we'll see some impressive growth there. Okay, I thought we'd end the video here right at this particularly handsome guild. I can't remember if I've put this in previous videos or not, but I love this spot, you know, how it's transformed. I mean, remembering that out here was nothing but this grass relatively recently. Just almost one species of grass. And now in this guild we've got this beautiful native fern. This is a native plant called naupaka. This is the mountain naupaka. And we can see that flowering, so supporting native birds, native insects. Beautiful plant. Loves this dappled shade here. The overstory is a protective gliricidia. So this is a really fast-growing nitrogen-fixing tree. You can see here, I cut it back just a couple months ago, and it just explodes with new growth. And that is protecting fruit tree, which is kind of the star of the guild, if you will, which is this mangosteen. In the middle, I mentioned earlier, they really don't like direct sunlight when they're young. But this one's getting quite big. It's probably a 5-year-old tree. Still got many years to go for fruit, but so far so good in terms of its overall health and growth. And again, just a beautiful guild there. Wanted to show that off and talk about, you know, this being sort of drought proof. You know, this is starting to feel like a forest. And in a forest, there's so much organic material, so much carbon banked into that soil. There's so much shade. There's a cooling effect. The wind is slowed down. Everything in there is being regulated and temperate and balanced. And everything out here, not so much. This is just blasted with sun. Very not diverse. What's happening under the ground is just as undiverse as what's happening above the ground. And so we're really looking forward to, over the years, you know, getting more of this and less of that pasture. And seeing this become more able to maintain itself, able to take care of itself regardless of what the weather, what the climate is doing, that we kind of know that forests are resilient. And you may lose some things here and there, but it just kind of becomes part of that balanced system. They go back, feed the earth, something else pops up instead. You open up little pockets of more light. It's all kind of part of that dance of the food forest. But for now, hope you enjoyed the video. We'll try to have some other updates as we get into fun projects over the summer, and we'll bring you along. Until then, aloha from Ina Bear Farm.